Things you love to see. Warzone weapon tuning, especially with this meta, the DMR, Giamattis, MAC-10s, Type 63s. Yeah, it's been a lot. Today we ended up seeing that Raven released a hotfix for Warzone, no download needed, so you can jump right in and experience these changes for yourself, but it was an update that included a weapons tuning pass for those 4 weapons, and then some other changes as well that help to hopefully fix the current situation of Warzone. It's kind of a mess in some regards pre-patch, so this stuff was much needed, and today we're going to break down what changed, what you can look forward to, and how much it actually changes what we see in game with Warzone. Will these weapons still dominate the meta? Will they be ones that get phased out, or can they coexist with a couple of other weapons? So as we go along, let me know your thoughts down below. What do you guys think of these weapon tuning changes? Do you think that they were enough? Do you think there should be more changes made? Whatever they may be, feel free to let me know. As well, if you are new to the channel, do be sure to subscribe button. We're on the road to 400,000 subscribers, and we'll keep you up to date with all things Warzone, Cold War, and anything COD related. So if you're interested in joining the community, I'd love to have you. But said, let's jump into the changes at hand. So the weapon changes have been broken down into some more focused categories: base attributes and weapon attachment attributes. Both categories having some stated significant changes, though in practical use, we'll come back to that at the very end of the video if it was actually enough. But starting out with the base weapon changes here, the DMR was the first and probably biggest thing with all eyes on it here. For this, we saw the changes to the bullet penetration properties changed from it being sniper round bullet penetration properties to what is now a standard rifle round penetration, which if you ever noticed why you could wall things and still do a heck of a ton of damage, that's why. It was using sniper penetration rather than rifle. So you should notice some difference now in playable use, but as for the damage fall off ranges, those were decreased, meaning that you hit those damage drop offs and lower damages a little quicker over a distance. So at a range, you may notice that it's not exactly what it was beforehand, in which it detailed that it's still 55 damage close, but 48 after 750 units, which is down 70% from where it was previously. As for the recoil, it was increased moderately for a second and third bullet, and the following bullets 4 and up had a slight reduction in recoil as well. Finally, for the DMR, we saw a change in the locational damage multipliers being adjusted as well, in which headshots now actually do less than 100 damage after 750 units. Also, the lower torso had a reduction from 1.1 to 1.01, so a change in about an 8% value there for that multiplier to the lower torso. The Type 63 also had that bullet penetration change as well, in which it was changed from a sniper category of penetration to rifle. It had the damage fall off ranges decreased, again pulling that in ever so slightly, in which it's now 60 damage before, and then at that first drop off 4,500 damage after 900 units, down from 55% from what it was beforehand. The Giamattis ended up seeing a max damage reduction from 45 damage to 40, down 11% here with that, and that rounds out the base weapons here that we had. The MAC-10 actually got off kind of scot-free with this update. It wasn't anything though, since the last nerf that I really saw as too big a problem. You still ran into the Giamattis, still ran into the DMRs. The MAC-10 though was what you'd expect from a close quarters submachine gun. It could shred, but outside of close quarters, it wasn't all that great. As for the attachments though, breaking down into a separate category once again, the DMR-14 had 2 additional attachments up on deck for the chopping block. The front grip had its vertical recoil reduction removed, and also the horizontal recoil reduction was increased from 20 to 30%. So an interesting change here to get rid of one of those pieces altogether. The field agent foregrip ended up having the vertical recoil reduction decreased from 35% to a 25% mitigation, and the horizontal recoil reduction was changed from 35% to 30%. The Type 63 ended up having, again, 2 additional attachments here up on the chopping block, in which it had that front grip once again adjusted, just like the DMR, where the vertical recoil reduction was removed once again, and the horizontal reduction was increased from 20 to 30%. The Spetsnaz ergonomic grip also was adjusted here, in which the vertical recoil reduction was dropped from 45% to 30%, and the horizontal recoil reduction was decreased from 45% to 40%. So changing some of those recoil values on specific builds, and likely the ones that you saw most used in class setups on weapons you were going up against. So those were adjusted for those specific weapons. If you use things like the front foregrip and the field agent foregrip on any other weapon, you won't notice those specific changes because they're specific to the DMR and the Type 63. Now, as for the Giamatti, the akimbo attachment was changed, in which all location damage multipliers are now set to 1 when using the akimbo. So there is no headshot multiplier, in which you end up getting rewarded for that air quote accuracy when it's really all RNG because of hip fire. But that's a big one because we did see that damage drop from 45 to 40, meaning that you now have to hit at least 2 burst entire headshots to 1 burst players with the Giamattis, and of course that doesn't normally happen, so you're probably going to see an increase in which it will require you to end up hitting 1 more burst from both Akimbo Giamattis to secure a kill compared to pre-patch to where we are now. So there's a few other smaller changes here that are definitely worth noting. We'll get to that in a second, but functionally, how do these 3 big powerhouses play now, probably going forward after the secondary update to them, the second in, what, a week's time or so that we've had with these? Let's start with the DMR because I think that has been the most problematic in terms of weapon balancing for Warzone in a hot minute. Now, the man's a wizard, but JGod already broke down some of the damage properties to which we can see if these are actually accurate in patch notes compared to how they play in game, and right now it seems like they are. He ended up breaking down that the first damage, which is that max damage potential, has the values of a headshot of 112 and a body shot of 55. That second damage, which is the first drop off in that shelf for damage drop offs, has a headshot value of 98 and a body of 48. So what this means functionally is that it still requires a 2 tap to the head plus at least 1 body shot for a kill, and if you don't have 2 headshots in the mix, it becomes a 4 shot with a singular headshot and even more without any headshots in the mix. So it is in line with what we've seen since the first weapons tuning pass on these weapons, but also brings that down ever so slightly once again. But functionally speaking, is it enough? Here's my thinking. Pre-testing it out in a live environment of games, I haven't had a ton of time to play games since this update went out, so it is definitely something the immediate reaction may be different to a week of hands-on experience, but I still think you're going to see this weapon a lot. I think this opens up other avenues for other weapons to make it into the meta, but I also still think that you will see these weapons continue on for a little while. I think the potential for the 3 to 4 shot kills mixed in with the rate of fire the weapon has is going to make it a heavily relevant weapon still, but at long ranges, you may not see it as much being an issue, though could still be incredibly annoying. I think until you drop that base damage value and the rate of fire, perhaps also adjusting the ammunition to be sniper rounds as opposed to the standard rifle rounds, you'll see this thing absolutely everywhere being spammed. When you think about it, if you don't adjust the fire rate, you don't adjust the actual base damage, you take those weapon attributes and take a fast firing weapon and put it in the hands of somebody with a quick trigger finger, you have still an absurdly quick TTK. I mean, it's only 3 to 4 shots you have to hit and place them properly. So you will still absolutely fry enemies. Same thing with the Type 63. This one, though, because the recoil is naturally higher than the DMR, you might not see it as much, but those still base fundamental problems will arise. So I still think that these are going to be very much so meta weapons, very much so the top weapons within Warzone, but slightly rolling back a little bit of where those useful areas are. Instead of having almost infinite range where you can map players with, it may just be something in that rolls it in for it to be a weapon that isn't as good across the world, but still really good up to long ranges. That sounds kind of stupid to say out loud, but that's really where you're going to see the changes, I think, here at very extreme distances as opposed to mid and long range. The Giamattis, it's just going to be tough to see because the big thing with this was the fact that you had a weapon that had such damage and then you could have 2 of those at a time. To know truly how that will work out functionally, you need to get your hands on with it because, again, hipfire comes down to such RNG that you can't really statistically put that in the hands of a skilled player and say you're going to get the same results every single time across 100 tests. So that one is a little bit tougher to gauge here, but interesting to see where that one will go. But we mentioned there were some smaller other changes here as well made with this weapon tunings pass, or I guess just overall patch that was a hot fix for the game. You don't need to download anything for this, but we ended up seeing some changes to the Mac 10 Gallantry Blueprint, in which that Gallantry Blueprint now has all of its stats matching the base Mac 10, which for those of you guys that don't know, that was actually a bug where the Battle Pass blueprint for the Mac 10 actually increased the damage properties and lowered the recoil profile. So that was something players were saying was pay to win, which certainly makes the argument for that. But again, just like how we saw with, I believe it was the EBR with Modern Warfare a couple of months back, that was something that blueprint, for whatever reason, created a different damage profile for the same weapon as the base, and that's been now taken care of, no longer should be an issue. One other thing that was taken care of that was wildly annoying was that of the Stim Glitch that was allowing players to sit in the gas for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, sometimes hours at a time, just having infinite heal-offs with players that may also be glitching the game. So you'd end up getting down to the final circle, killing everybody in it, and not be able to find somebody because they weren't actually in there. They were in the storm on the other side of the map, and so therefore, if you got down to that point, you just basically lost. There was no way to actually do that unless you had a gas mask, if they were close enough, and you could challenge a gunfight and take them out while they were stimming. So that's something that was unfortunately a bug that popped up for the third time within Warzone, but has been taken care of. And finally, there were some seasonal challenges fixed to appear and track as intended, so some smaller stuff there to round out the update. So that's where we're at here. That is the update for Warzone today and the weapon tuning that came along with it. So that's where we're going to wrap it up. Love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. Think this was enough for these weapon changes? Think it wasn't enough? If so, what would you change still and why? Feel free to let me know, but hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe to a single thing regarding all things Cold War, Warzone, and anything COD related. We'll keep you up with all of it. So if you're interested, feel free to hit that subscribe button. If you also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get kicking outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those. If you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. But that said, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.